myself while I was riding on my bicycle, thinking about the situation. No, I'm losing it. Okay. Yeah, thinking about Oprah and thinking about her life, and she has accomplished so much, but suddenly I felt in the consciousness of all of America. It's like this, okay? It's like, okay, now I have to digress and go off on a different path I have to go on a huge detour and go back to India, 2001, 2002, I don't remember when it was. I went with my quote-unquote teacher, my co-collaborator, now I'm calling him my collaborator. We went to a mother temple. Now in India there's a lot of temples that are dedicated to the Divine Mother. There, the feminine principle is venerated. And I remember being in this temple, and there were many people in there with me. It was kind of hot, because we were in the Sanctus Sanctorum, the Holy of Holies. The temples in India are built in a series of courtyards, enclosed in courtyards, enclosed in courtyards. It's like you keep going into the inner, keep going into another building, inside a building, inside a building, inside a building, until you finally get to the very center of the house of God, where the God is held or placed, and the God is a deity, usually a stone deity, or sometimes made of gold or some precious metal, and it's all just a picture. People misunderstand, and people who are raised in the tradition of Western religions, especially Protestantism, do not understand how other religions worship God, and they think they're misinformed. They think that it's very hard to describe what's going on, but you have to just take for granted right now that people are worshiping God. And they're not saying, okay, this one God, this deity made up of gold is the only God, and there is no other, and I have to go to that place to worship God. It's more like a telephone, okay? Like, this is a telephone and I can call God, okay? Every little deity in every little temple in all over the world, whether in India or in the United States or wherever they're kept, of like a Hindu. Let's talk about Hindu temples. There are many, many other religions that use deities or pictures. It's just like a telephone. In other words, I'm going to the telephone booth to pick up the phone and dial you on the phone. Now everybody has their own cell phone, but before we had cell phones, we had to go to some place where there was a telephone connection to speak to our friends who were too far away for us to speak to them directly face to face. So these temples are like telephone booths. You go into the temple to renew your connection with God, God being everywhere, not just in the temple. So the deity, when the person sees the deity, the form, and right now I'm talking about the mother form, okay? When they see the deity in the aspect of the mother, they are connecting with that aspect within themselves, in their consciousness, and that's how they worship. Okay, so it's not like in the Moses in the wilderness and the people bowing down to the golden calf. Okay, try to let go of that stuff, because we're talking about a whole different concept here. These people are, in fact, worshiping God, but they're doing it a little bit differently than what we're used to. Okay, the mother principle. So the mother embodies herself in so many forms, including these stones, but also including people. okay? The mother principle. Boy, I've dug a really huge deep hole here. No, I'm going to climb out of it. Okay, so I went to the temple with my collaborator and the other people in the movement, these so-called devotees. We were in the temple. There was a puja, which is puja is a worship service, a ceremony was going on. They were venerating the mother, using the deity as a proxy, you know. In other words, I can play with my doll, and I can pretend that my dolly is a little baby. Then I can lavish my motherly affections on the baby, and that is calling up the motherly energy within this form, within me. But I'm not confused. This is not a living child. Not confused, okay? These people who are venerating the forms, the deities, they're not confused. But they are really and truly worshipping that mother principle. But they're doing something to a doll in order to pull up these feelings of devotion within their own form. But they're not confused. Okay? It's really hard to describe this for people who are raised in Western religions. Okay. I was in the temple. They were having the ceremony. They were doing the puja. Part of the puja is that you recite some mantra. Everybody's heard of the mantra Om. Everybody knows this Om. Everybody knows this mantra. Almost everybody. This is a mantra. What is a mantra? A mantra is a vibration that a person repeats without necessarily understanding it. And the vibration, sound, simply is used again to focus your system in a certain direction, just like making a telephone call. You're picking up or dialing around the dial for a radio frequency, trying to pick up a radio frequency, okay? A mantra is like that. It's a certain frequency, it's a vibration, and you are getting linked with divine energy through that vibration. Okay, so I was practicing, pronouncing, chanting some mantras when I was in this temple with my teacher, my collaborator. What happened to me in that temple was something very strange. And at the time, I have to say that I was under the veil. What is the veil? The veil is the clouding. It's the Maya, the Vishnu Maya. It's the energy that makes you think, I am XYZ person, I was born, you know, makes you be afraid that you're going to die. It makes you identify with this form or with what's going on in your mind, with the thoughts that are occurring to you. Okay? So I was very heavily under this veil, and I was identified with my past. Now, this is key. Try to remember this. Identified with my past. My past, meaning the past of this body. Okay? But suddenly, while these mantras were coming out of this mouth, suddenly the voices of millions of souls were also coming out of my mouth. It was not one voice, but millions of voices were coming out of this mouth.